Hello everyone, Kendra Becker here. This is my book review. I chose to read Oversold and Underused: Computers in the Classroom, written by Larry Cuban. Relevant facts about him is that he's a professor of education at Stanford University and taught high school for 14 years prior to that. The title explains the subject matter in that policymakers, practitioners, and parents alike all have their own motives for getting new technologies in classrooms. However, it may not be the most effective model for reform. The book's thesis or angle looks at the argument that summarizes the beliefs that drive Silicon Valley are flawed when applied to our school system. Change makes a better society. Technology brings about change. Therefore, technology makes a better society. However, not necessarily a better school system. Summary of content: the setting, as I mentioned before, Silicon Valley, the peninsula stretching from San Francisco to San Jose in Northern California. While that is a very small area, it is home to thousands of computer and internet companies. Literally thousands, which is quite impressive. The initial study conducted and looked at in this book was of 6 preschools and 5 kindergarten classrooms in 7 different Bay Area cities. 2 questions guided the inquiry. 1, how often and in what ways were teachers and children using computers in preschools and kindergarten? And 2, given the availability of computers, in what ways have approaches to teaching and learning remained stable, and in what ways have they changed? Spoiler alert, these studies throughout the book have found that teaching and learning strategies and approaches remain stable rather than changing based on the amount of new technologies available. Summary of content continued. Takeaway to this early childhood study: in pressing early childhood teachers to use computers, educators and zealous parents have not transformed preschools and kindergartens into new and different versions of good schools. Rather, they have watched a technological innovation get reinvented into a benign addition to early childhood programs. The teachers opted for building emotional, social, and intellectual ties that reach well beyond proficiency with machines. So, although the computers were available to the teachers, they were not used in the way that one would hope. They were just benign additions to the classroom. Summary of content continued. The next thing looked at were colleges and universities, so high-tech schools, low-tech learning. While the amount of computers available to students has been on a steady rise since the 1980s, this metric is not a predictor of effective teaching. At Stanford University, a multi-million-dollar facility dedicated to new technologies was built, yet it seems that computers and other new technologies have had little tangible effect on either classroom teaching or learning. When it comes to teaching, few observers would deny that college professors are either non-users or only occasional users of computer technology in the classroom. The takeaway here is that a 1989 survey of 660 faculty in humanities and sciences found that professors are most likely to use computers for research, class preparation, and writing, and least likely to use subject-related software for computer exercises in the classroom. This was true of students as well. They may use the computers for homework, writing assignments, or researching, but they're not used within the classroom for exercises that are subject related for the most part. Getting into my analysis of the book, upon considering this book as a whole, I have concluded that I'm in agreement with the overall assertions of its author. Larry Cuban has presented his finding in such a way that they may be easily understood by readers, which I was quite surprised. Just being that the topic matter is so broad and it doesn't seem relatable However, the book made it relatable. The data is undeniable. Increasing new technologies in the classroom does not assure more effective curriculum or teaching by educators, and that has been what I've seen in the classrooms. The studies conducted were small enough to be meaningful and reliable to the point that one can infer the findings can be applied to the vast majority of schools. Silicon Valley is a perfect setting, and the conclusions drawn are reasonable and undeniable. Analysis of the book continued. There are unanticipated consequences and outcomes, and the book points these out, which was very useful. 3 points here that I decided to take out from my book review. 1, in the school studies, we found no clear and substantial evidence of students increasing their academic achievement as a result of using information technologies. 2, the overwhelming majority of teachers employed the technology to sustain existing patterns of teaching rather than to innovate. I think that was the most interesting thing brought forth by this book. 3, only a tiny percentage of high school and university teachers use the new technology to accelerate student-centered and project-based teaching practices. Most kindergarten and preschool teachers, as I mentioned before, already use such practices. I again assert that these findings hold true to my past and current experiences in schools and are therefore realistic and quite convincing. Analysis of the book continued yet again. Cuban, the author, provides rationale for his choice of grade levels chosen for the studies. I find this to be a welcome change from reading studies that simply omit large portions of populations without explanations. I find his explanations logical and plausible. This book provides many relevant facts and data regarding technology in the classroom, yet presents it in a way as to not overwhelm the reader. I found Cuban's conclusions to be unbiased and supported by the evidence collected, which is quite important. My conclusion. In summary, I honestly wholeheartedly agree with Cuban's assessment of technology in classrooms today. He says, quote, small changes accumulating steadily will create a gradual transformation in how teachers teach. The 80s and 90s were only the initial stages of a long revolution that will eventually press teachers to increase the frequency, breadth, and integration of advanced information technologies into their classroom routines. This has not happened yet. My final judgment is that Cuban is correct in nearly every assertion made within the text. He states that, quote, nor has a technological revolution in teaching and learning occurred in the vast majority of American classrooms. Conclusion continued. In my attempt to balance this book's strengths and weaknesses, I found it hard to pinpoint any notable weaknesses at all. The information is presented in a user-friendly manner, and the large and looming topic is addressed in a very relatable and understandable way. The studies conducted seem reliable, and the conclusions drawn unavoidable and undisputable based on the data provided. Another strength in Cuban's effort to note opposing opinions and points of view. He looks at the issue of technology in classrooms from many different angles, that of teachers, students, reformers, policymakers, parents, and even computer programmers in Silicon Valley. The body of my review is quite positive because I found the book to be enlightening, relatable, and credible, an easy read despite the colossal topic addressed. Thank you so much. I know this is not nearly all-inclusive, as the book was quite, the breadth of the book was large, so I did my best to pinpoint and highlight the most relevant facts. Thanks for listening.